Welcome to the MasterMIND Club, your ultimate gateway into the world of Bitcoin mining. Whether you're just starting out or looking to scale your operations, our vibrant community of like-minded enthusiasts is here to support you every step of the way. Join us for weekly sessions led by industry pros, where you'll exchange ideas, brainstorm strategies, and stay motivated on your mining journey. From heat management to site optimization, our monthly deep dives cover the technical know-how you need to succeed. And with access to our entire back catalog, you'll never miss a beat. But that's not all. Our members enjoy exclusive one-on-one sessions with veteran miners, plus direct access to special pre-sales and insider opportunities at Bitcoin Mining World. Ready to take your mining to the next level? Join the MasterMIND Club today and secure your spot in the future of Bitcoin mining. Visit bitcoinminingworld.com or scan the QR code now. And now back to the show.
What is up, guys? Good morning. Welcome to our MasterMIND deep dive into insurance, making sure that you've got the right risk mitigation plan for your Bitcoin mining operations. I'm your host, Trevor Bello. Today is going to be a fun little webinar deep dive conversation. You know, something that John Taylor was telling me earlier today is that nobody really cares about insurance until your mine blows up. So let's have a fun conversation today. We're going to bring on Dan Blaine from Marsh McLennan Agency. He's an insurance broker that helps people in the insurance space on Bitcoin mining, the Bitcoin mining side of things. It's going to be a fun little conversation, fun little go at it. And, we'll see if anybody's actually interested in making sure their Bitcoin mining operation, which, could be anywhere from $500,000 to, $50 million or even greater. We're going to see if you guys are interested in making sure that you've got the right plan so that if something inevitably happens, I mean, we're dealing with high compute electricity here and, things blow up. I've heard stories of $1 million burning to the ground, transformers blowing holes through the sides of buildings. So, a lot can go wrong in a Bitcoin mining operation. And so making sure that you have the right strategy in place for when something inevitably does happen, you can protect your backside, make sure that you're protecting your investment. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Just to give everybody a heads up, and I'll kind of throw this on the screen a couple times throughout, we have a giveaway for a Start 9. So as Bitcoin miners, we know that we're protecting and diversifying we're protecting and decentralizing the Bitcoin mining network. But at the same time, we need to run nodes. We need to run hardware. One of the best ways to get into running your own node is a Start 9 Server 1. This is an amazing device. I have one personally, use it all the time. I love it. The setup is absolutely easy. It takes like 5 minutes to set this thing up, other than like downloading the blockchain. That takes a couple of days. Anyways, scan the QR code at the bottom of your screen or go to the link and sign up for this giveaway. We're going to do that on December 24th. So on Christmas Eve, somebody is going to win this awesome Start 9 Server 1. All right, let's get that out of the way. We're going to bring up Dan Blaine. Dan, how are you doing today, brother?
Hey, much better now that you're here. Life is good.
Awesome.
I'm excited to chat. Appreciate being part of the group.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming in and talking to our community. Insurance is something that a lot of people don't really think about. It's kind of like taxes, nobody wants to think about it. But at the end of the day, it's one of the most important things to get set up and have, before anything bad happens. Because once something bad happens, you don't really have the time to go back and redo it, right?
Correct. Yeah, there's no redos in insurance. And you're right, spot on. Most people like taxes. Not a lot of fun to talk about. I promise I'm somewhat enjoyable at a cocktail party, but you really want to call us and have it just in case that thing goes boom, which we all know it can do.
Yeah. Like I said, I kind of alluded to in the beginning is like, I've heard horror stories of, large transformers blowing up and sending holes through the side of a metal building. We have one guy that we know who had $1 million worth of mining equipment. That's not even the build out, $1 million worth of actual mining equipment inside of this stick building. And it, a breaker didn't flip. The whole building burned down. And if he had insurance, it would have been a little bit better of a situation for him because he would have been able to recoup some of those losses. And he wasn't able to do that because he didn't set up the right risk mitigation plan beforehand. So, one thing that we want to stress to our audience, as anybody who's listening, if you're in the Bitcoin mining industry or looking to get into the Bitcoin mining industry, risk mitigation is just as important, if not more important, than your taxes. So, Dan, I'm going to basically just kind of let you take it away with your presentation. I'll pop off the screen. If you need anything in the meantime, just hit me up with a message in the studio. But other than that, I'm going to hand it off to you, brother.
So let's see how it goes. Thanks, Trevor.
All right. Yep.
Again, good morning, everybody. Excited to be here. My name is Dan Blaine. I am coming to you from just outside of Washington, D.C., working for Marsh McLennan Agency. Marsh is the largest insurance broker in the world, with offices all over. But most importantly, for this group, I've been in the space about 6.5 years, working with Bitcoin miners of all shapes and sizes, all locations, both in U.S., throughout North America, South America, North Africa, Northern Europe, and Middle East, and have some scars and some stories, which we'll get into a little bit later, on good, bad, and ugly of businesses, individuals, investors who took the time to mitigate risk on the front end, to manage some of that downside risk, and had some upside to it, and others who sadly were left with an empty wallet after unloading a few $1 million on infrastructure or mining rigs, and didn't take the proper steps. So I'm really passionate about working with entrepreneurs of all shapes and sizes, extremely passionate about Bitcoin, what it can do, not only for individuals' personal wealth and growth, but really, without being too corny, but for the world, right? And so that is why I'm even more passionate about those in the network and protecting the network, making sure they're taking the right steps to make that happen. We can kick on over to, I can kick on over. Next slide. Why insurance? And I think this came up actually at my first conference down with Scott at the beautiful Kalahari. Was stopped by a few people and said, what are you doing here? What's the point? Many people in this space had to begin to get insurance because of the stick rather than the carrot, right? Took some money from an investor or an institution. And in that contract, which is rather typical, there was requirements to insure the hardware specifically. So I got a call from a friend of mine in the space about 6.5 years ago, and said, hey, we just took a decent size of cash. We're buying some machines. We need an insured, figure it out. So with that, we went on about a 90-day adventure in the markets, found a solution out of London, which was able to both satisfy the contractual requirement of the investor, but also protect that company as well. And through there, have been able to expand our operations and help a lot of folks, which has been great. I do want to highlight on a couple things, a couple takeaways. Dan, I don't need insurance. My machines have a warranty. Warranties are not insurance, right? Warranties are not insurance. And I'll say it one more time for the kids in the back. Warranties are not the same as insurance. We want to be able to fully cover the loss of that machine, the infrastructure in and around it, the people who may or may not be walking in your facility, the employees that you have, and yourself from the potential downside of a lawsuit of any type. So jumping over to kind of what we are insuring and ways we've been helping some people. It's no surprise that Bitcoin miners are not always the most popular people in their local communities, regardless of the tax money being spent, the energy infrastructure being used, the innovation taking place. Some individuals, municipalities, etc., might be unhappy with what's going on. First one I want to highlight here, and we'll talk about all of them through some stories and examples of ways we've been able to help some people. But that directors and officers insurance. Some of you will say, oh, that's just for the mayors and the riots. That's not for me. Now, they all have that. And we work with a number of public companies. But I want to take the time to speak to the private operations. We work with folks from less than a megawatt up to close to a gig, and many of them on the private side. There's always somebody who can get upset with you. Landlord, local government, neighbor, and they're going to sue you, especially when they know there's a business attached. Why do companies, cars on the highway with their names on the side of it, get sued more? Because, hey, they think there's money there. Particularly with this Bitcoin thing that I see is up over $100,000 and everybody's getting rich off of. I'll take some money from those tech bros and we'll all be okay. Protecting your backside, your downside, and providing some separation between your personal wealth and the business is critical. And that's one of the things directors and officers insurance does. Much of the on-site, that general liability comes from, hey, I signed a lease and it's required. Again, the stick, not the carrot, which is fine. Most leases, if you do not own the location in which you're operating, will have an insurance clause. Most business owners will scroll right down to how much am I paying per square foot per month for how many years? Of course you will. That's why you bring on folks like us and others in the space to support you on those contractual requirements, making sure that you meet it on the front end, but also on the back end. Want to talk a little bit about going down to the mining rigs. We can all agree they're computers, electricity is running through them. We got some chips doing some cool things on the blockchain. That does not mean that every insurance policy will cover a Bitcoin mining rig. Additionally, in many cases, and I would guess that there might be some individuals like this already, to no fault of their own, who think they are fully covered, and they noted that the machines they own are high-speed compute or high data processing or whatever. And we came up with a thoughtful phrase, which is not untrue, to detail what they're all. I'll give you an example of a current client. Unfortunately for them, fortunately for us, I met them at a time of loss, and that's how they became a current client. They were, it's a good size operation, and they got with a good friend who works at a great agency, not in the Bitcoin space, but doing regular insurance, which is important. And they put their policies with a renowned carrier, and they thought they were good to go. Then some things went boom. They were assured, we're covered. They jump on the phone with the claims consultant from the carrier. Going through, okay, yep, server, we had that down, it costs this, we'll get it for you. You know, transformer, switches, all that fun stuff. Talk to me about the computers. Oh, sure, S19J Pros. Okay. Conversation stopped. This underwriter, claims adjuster, happened to understand Bitcoin. And he said, wait a second, you're running a Bitcoin mining operation? They said, yeah. Oh, you didn't read page 72, where it was specifically excluded, as it might be from your homeowner's policy for people running at home, or in other cases. There are some carriers, and we can talk about them in a little bit, who do specifically write bespoke coverage for Bitcoin miners. But all insurance is not created equal. All policy are not created equal. And it's very critical, not now, but soon, to maybe give an extra review to make sure that what you think is covered is indeed covered. This loss came to the tune of about $3.5 million, which doesn't matter how big you are, that's going to hurt the bottom line. So we were able to pull them out of that, have a conversation with some new carriers and get them all squared away. Fortunately, they've been able to grow beyond that. And I'm really excited for what 25 and 26 is going to hold for this organization. But that's just one example of some stuff that can happen. And $3.5 million is a lot of money anyway you slice it, no matter what the cost of Bitcoin is. Another one I want to hit on here in the required bucket, things like workers' comp and a surety bond. We've all been employed somewhere doing something before. Workers' comp, if you work in the United States, is required. So and it is not expensive, but it's one of those little things that can trip someone up where they think, hey, I spent the money on this. I called somebody for this. I called Dan to insure my rigs. Oh, I didn't do the other things. As I always say to Bitcoin miners starting out, when we're getting to know each other, what is your other business experience? You might be new to the game in your early 20s. That's great. But never forget that a Bitcoin mining business is a business. So you need to walk and talk and act the same way a business of any type, of any shape or size would. Workers' comp being one of those examples. Power companies, power bills. Hate them or love them, they help power the network, so we're grateful for the power. Never enough, and we'd love it all to be a little bit cheaper. A new client I picked up probably about 3.5, coming on 4 years ago. We were able to put about $4 million back on their balance sheet by using a surety bond. So many of you might have a requirement from your power company that says we need to hold X amount of dollars, X amount of months in cash in escrow on their balance sheet, not yours. In many cases, and we've been able to do this, fortunately, for probably a dozen or more miners where it makes sense, we are able to provide them with a surety bond in lieu of that cash to allow that cash to come back onshore, if you will, back into the good guy's bank account, while paying for that annual surety bond that says, hey, if things go south, this organization is going to jump in and help. But a little relief, a little nuance that, again, in the non-Bitcoin mining world is used often, but there might not be an awareness of it or an understanding of a partner who can help execute that for you. The last one I want to touch on here is professional liability. There may be some, and we work with a number of folks who operate mining locations. They're turning things on and off. They are sweeping, they're cleaning machines, they're doing all that fun stuff. That is a different risk profile. 145 people. Cool. Hey, everybody. Thanks, Scott. That is a different risk profile than general liability. General liability, think slip, trip, fall. Simple way to do it. Professional liability says, hey, that light turned green to red, but I forgot to get it. Maybe it might have been running a little hot, but I didn't notice anything. Hey, power was going up in price down on ERCOT. I'm supposed to have my eye on the ball to flip things off, and I forgot. And now the owner or my client is pissed off, understandably so. Professional liability to cover your work as an advisor or a leader in the space or at that location is critical, and something I would invite people to think about if it happens that that's their role. I gave you a couple highlights on some of the losses and examples thereof. Again, I'll start with the one at the bottom. Those lawsuits from investors or shareholders or stakeholders or partners, right? The second you take OPM, other people's money, as we all know, they can get pissed and come after you. Please make sure that you have some protections in place if that's the case from a megawatt all the way up, taking other people's money can have some downside to it, right? And so putting some protection in place is huge there. Another one to think about is loss of operations. So in the general insurance world, you have, I'm sure, heard the phrase business interruption or loss of income. That coverage does not specifically, in the broad sense, exist in the Bitcoin mining space. What does exist, and shout out to my friends at Evertas, what does exist, and many others are evolving with this, is the ability to insure your operational costs. So if something downstream blows and you and all of your neighbors are out of power for a week, a month, 6 months, there can be some cover there, right? Because sometimes bad luck just happens. That's why I have a job, right? And so being thoughtful about what options are available to you is important. Again, underlying that it's critical, in my opinion, to work with a broker who understands the space and insurance to marry the two and go from there. Mining at scale globally. People are doing it, right? Race to power. Different countries coming in and saying, hey, bring innovation our way. We've got a boatload of power. We need some investment. Bitcoin miners are a great way to grow the grid and enhance things. As we begin to do that, like anywhere, you need to take time to understand local regulations and requirements for a business operation, and always make sure you're communicating very clearly about what you will be doing in that space. We all in the community have heard different stories about South American countries, African countries, wherever, where things have gone good, bad, or indifferent. I'll give you one example. A country in North Africa, which is showing some openness to mining, and we've all seen some press releases over the past 12 to 18 months about different kind of name brand folks coming in there. Great opportunity on power price, growth and innovation, a win-win for all parties. About 9 months ago, I was working with somebody who I'd gotten to know a little bit. We met at a recent conference and talking to them for about 3-4 months. They said, hey, we have great opportunity going into this country. Can you get me squared away? And so we head off to the markets, come back in about 2 weeks. Everything's done and dusted. We have a proposal to send to them. And I said, hey, by the way, in this country, X, Y, and Z must be completed for any business, from a corner bakery to a Bitcoin miner. Since you're owned by a non-local national, you need to have that process completed and be able to share it both with the country, but the insurance carrier as well. That individual said, I didn't know what I was talking about. That was silly. We don't need it. You can bind the coverage anyway. We unfortunately could not because it wasn't allowed. And they are still struggling to go through the steps because they thought fast and cute would be an option for them. Again, not always the most fun at parties, but taking time to be thoughtful about risk management early on and throughout your business operation is key, particularly as you begin to expand and start potentially looking at some better power options outside the country, outside the US. We all need diamond hands. Let's open it up. Trevor, Scott, everybody for questions. My contact information is here. Personal cell phone and my Telegram right there. Shout out to the old high school football number. But really excited to be here. Look forward to continuing the conversation with you all. And thanks for having me. Trevor, what do you got?
Well, man, I just want to say that was very illuminating And I'm sure that our community, we've got 168 people tuning in. I'm sure our community gained some insightful knowledge on, the right risk mitigation strategy. I do highly recommend you reach out to Dan. Like Dan said, his contact information is there. Also, we're going to add him into our mastermind community channel so that if you have any questions that you want to share with the group as well, you can reach out there. Speaking of our mastermind community, guys, I just want to highlight. So this is one of our deep dives that we do every other week. Because of the Christmas season, we've been doing them just weekly, but we do them twice monthly. And you can gain a lot more valuable information than just what we're sharing in these webinars if you join our mastermind club. The mastermind club is completely free. And I'm going to throw up, let's see here. Let me throw it up on the screen. Where is it? Anyways, if you join our mastermind club, you can get a lot more than just what you're getting today in this deep dive. I'm trying to, okay, well, I'm not sure exactly where it is, but oh, here it is. Sorry for that. So go to this URL, scrolling across the bottom of your screen, sign up for our mastermind. You get a lot more than just these deep dive webinars bi-monthly. We do project roadmaps. You get, minimum order quantities of one. You can, if you're one miner or if you're 500 miners, we can help you out to make sure that you're building your mining operation in a way that's safe, economically profitable, and the right fit for you. So with all that being said, we're going to start opening this up for questions. And yeah, so if you guys have any questions for Dan, please send them to the chat and I will start fielding those questions. I know that there's a lot of information shared in there, but there's so much more information to learn. I mean, insurance is a ever expanding, completely nuanced subject, and not everybody's situation is the same. It's kind of like working on a house. Every project is a little different.
And Trevor, that's a good point. While we're waiting for the first question, the insurance market of 6 years ago, of 3 years ago, of 6 months ago, of today, and of some of the innovation coming down the line in the next year or two, it's always changing. So you'll have conversations with folks who say, "Oh, I talked to somebody, they didn't really understand it a while ago, or there wasn't an option for that." Reach out back to whoever you were working with and ask, because carriers, the markets are evolving and learning more and more about the space. So be mindful of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, especially with Bitcoin hitting 100,000, with large investment broker or, large retailers coming into the space, the institutions are here, for lack of a better phrase, and that changes the regulatory environment around Bitcoin. And banks and insurance providers, they're much more comfortable about building out these different plans and strategies for Bitcoin mining operations. So I agree with you 100% on that. So we got a couple questions already coming in. Again, guys, if you've got a question, just type it into the chat. We've got, about 30 minutes that we could sit here and ask Dan some questions. So, we'll spend some time on it if we absolutely need to. So our first question comes from Ron, and I'm guessing he wants to know, what is the insurance strategy on leased infrastructure versus owned infrastructure?
Sure. Great question, Ron. And this is one of those, the answer works for a Bitcoin miner or the corner bakery. For leased infrastructure, contract. You need to first meet the requirements of your contract, which will likely be mentioning your landlord as an additional insured on the policy, having on balance $1 million of general liability, and some other stipulations there. There might be things noted about build out and different loss types. So when in doubt, you always go back to the contract, and that will be your guide, right? And then you can simply execute from there.
Awesome. That's a perfect answer.
Owned infrastructure, and sorry, Trevor, just on the owned infrastructure
good.
part, we all insure our own houses, I would like to think. And if you don't, know some people you can call, right? So it's a huge investment. If it is your space, your location, you still want to insure that as well. But always the contract on a lease is the most critical thing.
Yeah, always refer back to your contract. It's kind of like the same thing when dealing with just business operations in general. You refer back to your contract. I have a question. I'm a small miner, and so I'm not dealing with the 50 to 200 megawatt size. I've got, I think I want to say like 10,000 watts up in my area. Is it prudent for me to insure these, like my operation as well, and try to find a strategy that works for my situation too?
Sure. So the good news is the short answer is yes, and not because it's my day job, but because I think, Trevor, you would likely be surprised at the cost, right? In a good way. And so if somebody said, hey, take 1% of your values and hedge on some downside risk, you might go, oh, that could make some sense, right? So I think regardless of size, being mindful of it first, the stick, what is contractually obligated from what I'm doing. Second, what's that downside look like, right? So if something went boom, yeah, maybe it's not commercially viable or doesn't make sense for you, but it's worth looking at. As we all know, I'm the risk game, and there is no show me a more risk-on group of people than Bitcoin miners, right?
Completely agree.
I was at a conference down in College Station. Shout out to the guys, the real ones know. A couple of years back, and we were all sitting around chatting, and I heard a story of a gentleman who wired $5 million to Kazakhstan. Shit, at this time, 10 plus years ago. Never saw it again. Rebounded and kept moving, right? This is a risk-on group of people. Good news is it wasn't his last $5 million. But we're on the cutting edge for a reason. Work with a partner who can be out on that edge with you and provide you some protection.
Yeah. So I would assume that I don't want to go to my regular homeowners insurance agency for that. I want to reach out to like someone like Evertas, someone in the space already.
Right. That would be accurate. And again, this is not a knock against your cousin, your mother, your neighbor, your friend at State Farm, right? Great companies, great organizations doing important things in the communities and beyond. But working with a broker who can help you get access to a carrier like Evertas, and Trevor, you bring up a great point there on kind of defining terms, right? A carrier like Evertas who understands the business and can understand what you need, that's the conversation you need to be having.
Yeah, I kind of think of this as like when you're trying to get funding or financing from a bank, you want to make sure that you come into the right bank who understands what you're doing, and also you want to be able to verbalize what you're doing in a way that they understand. So a lot of times when you go to a bank, you don't say, "Oh, I'm working in Bitcoin, I'm building a Bitcoin mine." You say, "I am working with compute, I'm building a data center." And so this kind of just differentiates the two worlds, and data centers are something that banks understand. Bitcoin mining is not something they understand. So it's just kind of like having the right verbiage.
Right. And also knowing that there are some banks who understand it, who will work with smaller operations and startups. So being the entire world in and around the infrastructure in and around Bitcoin mining is evolving nonstop. The lawyers, the accountants, all the fun folks, the bankers, right? It's evolving. So people are getting smart to it and are looking to support entrepreneurs like yourself.
Yeah. Awesome. So this question comes from Scott, and this is in direct relation to the story that I told earlier in the beginning. So if a fire breaks out in my mine and it was the power distribution units that caused the issue, what happens if the PDUs are not UL listed?
So bringing that back up, who owned the, we'll be going after who owned what. Thank you. So fire breaks out from the distribution units. You would want things to be covered because, and here's how we work in the loss. Call me, oh, shoot, Dan, things went boom downrange, right? And my guys lost and got fried. We address what is insured and deal with it. The carrier works to make you whole and the carrier goes after the person who owes them money, right? You don't want to be in that fight, right? Because you're getting mucked down in things that are not your job. Let professionals do their job, and carriers, like the house, they like to win, right? And so having their lawyers and their claims team fighting your fight is critical. And that's how you find success in a loss, right? The more people who have your back. So it is somebody's fault, and let them go after the person whose fault it is. Let them write you a check to help you rebuild and cover the costs of whatever was lost.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I guess, another way to frame this is what happens if, the mining operator, you've got an insurance policy, you've got a plan, but let's say you go out and you buy a transformer that's not UL listed. Is that's then your fault if that transformer blows up, correct?
It very well could be, right? I mean, this goes down to wanted to make sure, but another reason to have the liability for coverage there is wanted to make sure that you, like any other business, are operating with the appropriate things and everything's above board, right? But ideally, you'd be working with machinery and infrastructure that is covered, insured, and these things are all taken care of.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not a advertisement for going out and getting non-UL listed stuff. So,
yeah. That way, that you start messing with the sticky wicket.
Yeah, as Scott says, your electrical inspector needs to inspect the equipment to ensure it follows local rules and regulations. That's very
and that
important.
goes back to that goes back to all those local. Knowing the municipality, the country, the town in which you are operating.
Absolutely. And every, we've got 3,500 different counties in the state or in the country. So there's 3,500 different laws and regulations that come into play here. So making sure that you understand that for your county, your jurisdiction is important. All right. So we have a question from Nathan. Can we package home insurance with operation insurance with someone like you, who we were talking about? So, someone like me, who's a small Bitcoin miner, I've got, 2 or 3 miners running in my home. Can I package that with my home insurance policy?
One of my favorite answers, unfortunately, maybe, but not likely.
Yeah.
Right? I am a proud member of Navy Federal. My father, uncle, brother, grandfather, all Marines. Thank them for their service, and anybody on here who served our country. And they insure my home. I met somebody at a conference about 5 years ago who said, "Oh, I've got them insuring my mining machines." Do they know what they're insuring? Right? So could you add computers to your homeowner's insurance? Yes. If there's a loss, they might be specifically excluded. So this goes back to, when in doubt, always work with a carrier and a broker who can access the carriers that know what you're doing. It will be far less expensive than you think, particularly for the small operations, and just doing it the right way is better than, again, trying to be fast and loose and hopeful that nothing goes wrong.
Yeah, I'm thinking specifically about my situation. I am a pleb miner who's mining for heat. So I have a air-cooled Bitcoin miner in my house that's, above my furnace that's pumping air into my house. And I'm thinking, like, if that blows up and burns my house down, worst case scenario, if I don't have the right risk mitigation policy, my home is insured for fire, but when it comes down to what started the fire, well, it wasn't the oven. And it wasn't, faulty electrical. It was this Bitcoin mining computer in my wall that started the fire. So that could cause the insurance company to be like, "Oh, well, sorry, this is what happened, and we're not going to cover you." Am I kind of
that could
tracking
cause
there?
a bad situation. That could cause a bad situation. So yeah, when in doubt, always belts and suspenders. Always double check and confirm the language, and work with a partner. Call your homeowner's agent. Say, "Hey, is this really covered?" And have that conversation.
For sure. Awesome. So guys, we got plenty of time left. If you guys have a burning question, whether it's a small question or a large question, send them into the chat. I would love to ask Dan. So Scott asks, are companies putting insurance contracts into the blockchain with smart contracts yet? Real world tokenization of insurance coverage. That's a good question, Scott.
That is a very good question. So what I will say overall, I was just having this conversation with a executive at a carrier that is not currently in the Bitcoin space. But like anything, big business and all business understands the benefit of not just modernization, but the blockchain, right? And what that can do and provide to them for speed, cost savings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So in short, yes, a lot of different sectors are beginning to quietly better understand smart contracts and what can be possible there. I've been second half of that. Oh, so it's like a real world tokenization of insurance. Yeah. So there will be the smart contract world is catching up. Sorry, I misread that and thought it was a question about can you insure tokens, which is also possible. But again, maybe don't get jammed up like Haktua. Defraud some people, so could be a little bit more painful there. But yes, Marsh has supported a number of coins on their initial coin offerings. So
for sure. Well, we're still waiting for some questions. While we got a little bit of time, I'm curious. We mentioned Evertas, but are there other insurance carriers in the space who help anyone from 1 megawatt, maybe it's even 3,500 watts like myself, all the way up to 200 megawatts?
There are a number, some more known, some not. Realm's another great shop. I've clients with Markel who are covering some of their machines, and then a lot of names out of London. Most of the coverage for insurance is written through the London markets or some Bermudian markets. There's some new players coming on in Cayman, and that is mostly due to just simply operational efficiency for different locations. But I was just on the phone right before Thanksgiving with a new insurer coming into the space, looking to do some innovative stuff. So yes, innovation has not stopped. And there are a number of players continuing to evolve and grow with us in the space. Dennis, what do we got? Dennis?
Let's see. Do you generally find insurance coverage for Bitcoin mining operations in any state? So I guess he's asking for like general insurance coverage for Bitcoin miners in all 50 states, or is it differing from state to state?
So there are different local regs. But in short, in any of the 50 U.S. states, a operation could be insured. What you will typically understand is I can think of the states where I'm insuring and have operations, as we all know, because cost of power, right, and openness to certain locations. So, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Kentucky, a few more Midwest states, Ohio, my friends down in Texas, Pacific Northwest, Kansas, Wyoming, the Dakotas. That's probably missed a state or two, but that currently is where we're working with owners and operators.
Awesome. So we're going to touch back on this, Nathan.
Ryan, another good question. Sorry.
No, you go ahead, Dan. Go ahead and answer this one. How much coverage should you carry?
Sorry. I'll wait for. Yeah, I'll wait for Scott to throw up the next one. Don't want to jump the gun. Number one, Ryan, the contract, right? So if you are leasing and they require XYZ, they require statutory work comp if you have employees. For your physical property, you should insure up to the value. And so anticipate back of the napkin, rough numbers, something in that 1% to 2% of value could be in and around the cost to insure.
For sure. Awesome. So this one kind of goes back to what we were talking about on the pleb side of things. We kind of answered this question a little bit, but can we go back to the homeowner's insurance question of like combining your homeowner's insurance with your Bitcoin mining insurance?
Sure. So is it possible? Yes. But call that your agent who provides you with the homeowner's insurance, or that carrier specifically, and don't get cute. Explain what type of machine you are running and what it is doing. Well, we can say, well, it's heating my pool, it's heating my house. Tell them what it is, because if they know and allow for it, no problem. But if we're a little unclear, something goes wrong, and we find out later there is an exclusion, then you've wasted a lot of money and you're not going to have the coverage you need.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much, Dan. Chris, you asked this, so I just realized that is not the actual website. I'm going to share it on the screen for you guys. Again, if you want to join the Mastermind Club, go to this website. So bitcoinminingworld.com/mastermind-club. That is the proper website link to join the Mastermind Club. Again, it's completely free. I apologize for that, Chris. Thank you for keeping me on my toes and making sure I do a better job here. So let's see. We got any more questions in the chat? Yeah, so we don't really have any more questions, guys. We're 45 minutes in, so we have more time if you guys want to, ask any questions. But I think we did cover a lot today. And so, Dan, one question that I have is, going back to like these problems, these things that can happen. What are some of these, like, maybe tell us some stories of some of these horrors of Bitcoin mining operations going up in smoke or something like that can cause you to freak out and lose a lot of money.
Right. There's a few. I mean, I'll give an example that's more business focused and less insurance focused to start. But like anything, if you're opening up a franchise of gyms or 10 cafes, all in the local area of town, you would want to get to know your politicians, your local fire and police department, your local civic organizations. And what we've all seen in various parts of the country and beyond are business owners who came in and said, I'm paying my taxes, I'm paying my power bill, doesn't matter what I'm doing next. And some of those people have gotten run out of town on a train. So step one, bring basic business acumen to your new operation of how to get things going. And sorry, I just saw the next question pop up. We'll get to you, Ron, in a second. And then take the time to be thoughtful about your scale, what you're building out, and how to protect yourself thoughtfully over time.
Yeah. So Ron asks, can you, Dan, review contracts to determine what is required for a specific individual?
Yeah. And that's stuff we're doing every day in all different types of businesses. Reviewing leases, reviewing investment, stipulations or agreements, banking agreements, anything with other people's money or other people's property, reviewing what's required of you, reviewing what, if anything, you have in hand that's currently active, making sure they match up, and if they don't, fixing that problem.
Yeah. Real quick, could you kind of, you specifically as a broker, what are the type of clients that you're looking for? Like, what are the sized clients you're looking for?
We can all say, a glib answer, bigger and better, and here we go. I'm really committed to the space. I like Bitcoin miners, right? We're a goofy little crew, and we do some cool stuff. We're on the front line of innovation, and we're supporting a network and doing work that I think generations from now, a lot of people will be celebrated for. Would I love everybody to have 100 megawatts and run over to have me insure all their machines? Sure. But like I said, I've got some great longtime clients, Trevor, well below a megawatt. And they're doing really cool stuff and growing from there. I've worked with folks who have been 100 plus. Some things have happened. They've sold all their stuff and they're kind of lying low for a little bit, and they might scale up a little bit later. So I want to work with business owners who want to be thoughtful about their business and their operations, and have partners who are both knowledgeable in their line of work, being insurance, lawyers, accountants, and want to work with people in the space, right? Some of the best way we provide value is not just in the insurance coverage, but like you, Trevor, and everybody on here, it's a small world, and we're all very early. So getting to know folks doing different things in different locations allows me to say on my next phone call, oh, I've got somebody with a boatload of power they're not using in Kansas that's running off wind, and you're the CFO of a public company that has a green thesis, and you need to roll some wind into your portfolio. You guys should chat, right? So being able to be both, first and foremost, provider of sound risk management, insurance policies, et cetera. But then a partner who wants to get to know your business and see how else they can help. Those are the folks I like to work with. No jerks. So, if you're a jerk, you can call somebody else.
So this is a question, and this actually comes from the podcast that I do, the Build a Mind podcast. I ask everybody this question, and I like this question because, everybody comes to Bitcoin from a different perspective, and kind of when you answer this esoteric philosophical question, it kind of gives the audience a better understanding of who you are and how you come into the space. So I'll ask this to you, Dan. What does Bitcoin mean to you?
Easy question, easy answer. Probably would have been different 7 years ago at my first conference. Freedom. Bitcoin equals freedom.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I've had that answer several times. Everybody has a different perspective of freedom, but it's the freedom.
I think, Trevor, it is, to me, it speaks to equality. It speaks to self-determination. It is not someone else's money. It is your money. It is not printed by someone else. It is yours. It's owned. It's secure. It's legitimate. It's borderless. All the buzzwords we know. But I've also seen some real world applications, right? What Bitcoin did for, and all wars are terrible, but some of the things going on in Ukraine, right? For some people leaving Kyiv and banks collapsing, but they were able to put value in something and have that be borderless, right? In countries where banking isn't as evolved and wealth creation options aren't there. And I think there's a visionary aspect to it. There's a hope in freedom, right? Where, I'm checking my accounts and I like to see it go up. And I have some people in my own, social circles at home who are like, you run around that Bitcoin stuff. That's all crazy. And I'm like, well, worst case, I'll probably be able to pay for my daughter's wedding for it. Best case, it could be some pretty cool stuff, right? And for folks looking, to me, freedom is not looking down. It's to be even more corny, a little bit above the horizon, right? We're not doing this now for next year. We're not doing this for the next halving, right? We're trying to make some money in between them, right? We're trying to grow in between then. We're trying to build the network and strengthen it between them. But there's a long-term thesis to this. And I can elaborate. Nobody needs the insurance guy to go on.
So what's funny about that is I've heard this before. It's not a get rich quick scheme. Bitcoin. It's not a get rich quick scheme. It's a don't get poor scheme. It's a way to save your money and your value and your time and project it into the future. So I love Bitcoin for that reason. I'm going to pop this question up. This will be the last question that we answer. So Dennis is asking, most mining machines are being imported from China. I know that it is common to lower invoice value to avoid tariff payments. Please advise how it might affect ability to insure the miners. And Scott's kind of answered this a little bit. But
I saw that. In short, hey, Dan, I need to insure some miners. Great. Where are they? What are they? I kick you a beautiful little Excel spreadsheet. You kick it on back. The carrier looks and says, are they in a building? Are they in a container? Where is it located? What is it? And the market has a value for that. So I'm not going to ask for your tariff report. I'm not looking at this. What is it? and what does it cost? And that's what the market will work collaboratively to insure for. So there might be some other noise around that, but where is it? What does it cost? And let's get it insured.
Yeah. So if your machines are worth $10,000, but you declare they're $1,000, you're only going to get insurance for the $1,000, not for the $10,000.
So I'm going to take, because that's tied to the tariffs and this and being cute around that I won't speak to. What I'll speak to is, again, folks like the Evertas, the Realms, they understand the space. They know what, an old gen miner is worth X. We can all kind of spitball around what that cost is. We can all look on Telegram and the miners hardware things and see what things are going for used, right? Items have a value, and that's what the market places on them, and that's what they will be valued at, right? So I can't come in and say to a car insurance company that my $300,000 Bentley that I do not have, wouldn't mind having, that my $300,000 Bentley is worth 10 grand, because they look and go, nope, it's $300,000 Bentley, it's worth $300,000, right? The same way you can't say my, M53 is worth $2 because it's down. So there are some checks and balances in there that when you're looking to get into a contract with an insurance carrier, there will be an agreed upon value.
Gotcha. Well, Dan, I just want to say I appreciate your time today. Appreciate you, coming and speaking to our community. There was a lot of information shared here, and we're going to get you in our Telegram group so that anybody who's in our mastermind club can just reach out to you directly. Otherwise, we shared your contact information before. So I just appreciate your time today. Guys, if you're watching this live and if you're tuning in later, so our next Mastermind Deep Dive, and here's the link that you can go to sign up for that on StreamYard. Our next Mastermind Deep Dive will be, let's see, what is the date on that one? It is January 10th, and that will be a deep dive with Ryan Ramaninger from CryoBite Labs. We are going to be doing a deep dive into direct-to-chip cooling and a hybrid cooling method. It's pretty interesting what they're doing. So basically, I've decided as a heat punk, as a pleb miner, we're going to do January because it's the coldest month generally for us in the States. We're going to be doing a heat punks month where we bring in two different people to talk to our community about home heating, business heating with Bitcoin miners. So that's what next month is going to be about. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited for it. Join the StreamYard chat to come and talk to us to see how you could, heat your home and heat your business. There's different economic implications with those, but don't miss out on that. And also, one last time before we let everyone go, here is the QR code for our Start 9 giveaway and the website there as well. So if you want to run your own node, if you want to be a sovereign individual, if you want to verify your own version of the blockchain, go ahead and scan that QR code down there at the bottom of the screen, and you can have a chance to win. So with that, guys, I just want to say thank you, everyone, all 228 of you who tuned into this live. Dan, thank you for showing up and speaking to our community. Thank you to Scott and the rest of the team at Bitcoin Mining World for helping to put this on. And thank you to our Mastermind Club members. You guys are what help us find the drive and the ambition to continue building out this network, building out this amazing community of like-minded individuals who are, just trying to survive in the very, very chaotic and fast-paced environment of Bitcoin mining. So with that, we're going to end this stream today. Today is Friday, December 13th, and we will see you guys again after the holidays on January 10th. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you for joining us in the Mastermind Club, your ultimate gateway into the world of Bitcoin mining. Whether you're just starting out or looking to scale your operations, our vibrant community of like-minded enthusiasts is here to support you every step of the way. Join us next week where you'll exchange ideas, brainstorm strategies, and stay motivated on your mining journey. Thank you for joining us and tune in next week.